MG, an old name but a relatively new company, has managed to do some technology that gives you very good fuel or energy efficiency. This is a ZS Hybrid Plus. I went on the launch and traveling down sort of semi-rural roads and that, you could hardly tell the difference. But it's around the urban area where the new technology, which is clever and, as I say, gives great fuel efficiency, but it is a bit more of the shock of the news because it achieves that in some ways that feel very, very different. The front of the car is fairly traditional, almost hatchback look about it that has been very common for 5 or more years. Obviously, we still need a grille being a hybrid, and so some cooling is there. Now, the wheels are rather interesting. They're almost got a little bit of the Alfa Romeo about them, the 5-leaf clover. But the MG part of it makes it particularly distinctive from some of its competitions. Not the Alfa Romeo, that's not its competition at all. Now that's again is a 55 ratio profile tyre, which I talked about on another car, the D-Pal, which is, I think, a great idea. I do not like very low profile tyres. I don't think they're necessary. Strong crease line along the bottom. You can see that. That's very distinctive, as well as the more traditional crease with the waistline, which curves up at the back and creates a second line here. I think that's neat, and it's probably enough, certainly for this sort of vehicle. And at the back, very proud of the fact that it's a ZS. Yeah, that's good and comfortable. Good tether points clearly marked there. A couple of little hooks to hang on to, a bit of room underneath. Obviously, being a hybrid, it doesn't have a huge battery.
If you value independent journalism or simply enjoyed the video, please support the channel by hitting like and subscribe.
A colleague of mine had one of these, just bought, MG ZS Hybrid Plus. He spent near $40,000. He thought it was pretty good, but he began to find that when driving it, it was doing things that, well, he wasn't expecting, and it also put him on edge. And it wasn't how it steered, but it was how the engine and the electric motor interacted. And it wasn't what he expected. It wasn't a seamless transition from a normal internal combustion engine, or it is not a hybrid that you might have, a quote normal hybrid that you might use. It's very good in the sense that it's not a mild hybrid. When you start off, it is usually starting with a battery, which is quiet and calm. I love that. But when it starts getting to need power in different situations over a trip, not necessarily immediately, but over a trip, then the engine starts revving in a manner that you wouldn't expect, and you might not get all the power you might expect or need at a particular time. The MG has an electric motor with a bit of a battery and a internal combustion engine, as is typical hybrid. But they do not exactly the same thing. It's not as if they can work together and produce the same result from the different powertrain. In fact, the car only has a 3-speed gearbox. And it was explained to me that really the electric motor does the off the line getting going a bit like gears 1, 2 and 3. And the internal combustion engine has 3 gears which really are doing the task of a bit like 4, 5 and 6 in a normal gearbox. Now, there's not a huge battery, and in order to get its best energy efficiency, it uses that battery as much as it possibly can. So when you're driving along, you may come to a slow situation where you need those 1, 2, 3 type gears, or performance type, as though it were those gears, and the battery doesn't have much power. It's used it up by trying to be efficient in general driving. So what happens is, I think the engine starts revving. Maybe it's going to a low gear to try and get the power. Maybe it's doing also a bit of charging for the battery. But what that means is I'm going gently off the mark and boom, I've got an engine that is clearly revving. I can hear it. And once it gets over about 3,000 revs, it really becomes quite noticeable. But of course, it does it in a manner that the computer is trying to pick to be most efficient, but which isn't, as I'm used to, the logical way or the traditional way a hybrid might have worked. In the Nissan, it rarely lets the battery go below 20% or above 80% in the hybrid. Now that's actually good for battery life. It's also good for a sudden change in the need of the power of the engine, so that there's always some battery there that a sudden acceleration, it can do its bit and do its bit well. What this does, it seems to be using the battery whenever it possibly can. The number of times where I can look down at the rev counter and find that it goes down to 0, in other words, it's turned the internal combustion engine off, is really quite a lot, and not like a typical hybrid. If you do a typical hybrid and go up a hill, it's likely to bring in the internal combustion engine, even if it's not a hill or a slight grade. But here I am going up a slight grade, and it's only just managed to turn the engine on. For a while there, it was still off. So that must drain the battery, which means that it may not have a lot of power if I had to do a sudden acceleration. Now, to be quite honest with you, I've driven this car quite a bit, and generally it's fine. But it's in that stop-start urban traffic that it's more likely to do things that I might not understand why it's doing it. This car is beeping at me. It beeped at me. I thought it said 70. Took a while for it to adjust. Maybe I was doing more than 60 just before it turned 70. I would really like to turn that beeping off, not the least of which is that I am only showing 1 kilometre an hour over the speed limit. And because it's showing that, I'll bet that I'm under it, allowing for the factors of safety that are in the car. I'm driving along 60 kilometres an hour, minimal throttle. In fact, it's just turned the engine off and relying purely on the battery power. It seems to be just a little bit of unsure when the engine does start again as to which one it's going to be using smoothly. The car actually has up on the dial quite a degree of information. It's showing me that I'm in my lane, and it's picking up and showing me moderately well the cars around me. I find that's actually a little bit of a comfort. The reason is that if I am going to rely on steering lane keep assist, it's nice to know that the car sees things around it. Lane keep assist and adaptive cruise control. I struggle with this one a bit. In order to be efficient, it keeps the regenerative power system going even when you're in advanced cruise control, which gives you lane keep assist. Most cars turn that off, and they do it for a reason. If a car is trying to, say, let's stick to 100 kilometers an hour, it's having to back off the accelerator, and actually good cars aren't doing it so frantically, not feeling to the driver, but so minutely and so often that it can use possibly more fuel. But this one does it like that, but when it backs off, the regenerative system comes into play. So you set it at adaptive cruise control, and it's tending to do a, yes, catch up, yeah, oh no, it's slowing down, up. So I turned it from strong adaptive regenerative system to mild, and it was a bit better. But I didn't want to do that. I really wanted to turn it off. If you have lane keep assist and it wanders a bit, does the car fight you and fight you hard? And if so, are you, I found in the Genesis a bit, that had to trust it enough to let it do it. In this one, if you put the merest pressure, the slightest pressure on the car steering wheel, it turns off the lane keep assist. And then it takes a little bit of a while to settle you back in again. I found even if I had two hands on the wheel, it seemed to me like that was going to turn off the lane keep assist. Now I want lane keep assist, not that I want to turn my head or do anything, but just to keep it there so that in case I just lose contour, I wander just a little bit, it's going to adapt for me. If I look down a little bit. But if I look down, I tend to grip the wheel a little more, and it turns off lane keep assist. So just when I needed it, and I'm never going to look down for a long time so that I go crazy, but I'd like it just to help me keep in line. I think I might do a separate video on why the hybrid system is different and why it sends different messages or responds in ways that, not performance, but in sound and engine and noise and things, a little differently.
Have your own thoughts? We'd love to hear them, good, bad, or in between. Have a chat with us by dropping a comment below.